Welcome to South Asia Maps. This is your presenter J. Reddy at South Asia Maps, the educational channel. I bring the knowledge about South Asian region in the form of maps, images, pictures and icons to the intellectual Kshatriyas of modern India, those who are very eager to learn about the ancient land and civilization in the form of icons for easy articulation and grasping. Excuse me. And we are continuing our presentation on imperialisms. In the last 4 lectures, I talked about language of imperialisms. I discussed all the 4 languages, that is the language of Islamic imperialism, Christian imperialism, European imperialism, communist imperialism, mapped to 8 standard attributes that Mahayogi Sri Ram Swarup ji and intellectual Kshatriya of modern India, Sita Ram Goel ji analyzed. In this presentation, I will briefly walk through all the 4 imperialisms that invaded the ancient Indian civilization in one slide, so that you will have very good clarity about these imperialisms, what languages they speak in India, and you can easily discern their attributes. Previously we saw them separately, and here we are going to see all together at one place. This is a very interesting presentation and you will have very broad idea and a picturesque concepts, bird's eye view, why all these are one and the same with some subtleties or minor differences and minor nuances. These 3 people are called by their admirers or who studied their doctrinal works as a part of Hindu awakening, Hindu renaissance, after Hindus lost their 5 subhas to Islamic imperialism in 1947. Purbi Bengal and Paschim Punjab Sarhad Subha, that is Peshawar, Pakhtunkhwa, Baluchistan and Sindh. These intellectuals of Voice of India took up the intellectual challenge to put the alternate ideas for the Hindu civilization upfront for observation and understanding. These are considered the greatest intellectual think tank in the second part of 20th century, that is 1947 to almost 2000. 20th century ends at 2000. Sita Ram Goel is a great thinker and author, a rishi of resurgent India, and passed away at a ripe age of 2003, a great intellectual giant of modern time. Mahayogi Sri Ram Swarup ji is considered to be a very great original thinker, a Mahayogi after the death of Mahayogi Sri Aurobindo round about 1940. He is considered as a modern India's greatest thinker, original thinker. Lot of you might have not heard their names or not even studied their works because they are suppressed by the Macaulay's and Stalinist historians in India. That is a different story. The quality of the work stands alone. Sometimes in the initial stage, it may not be brought to the notice of people. That is a different aspect I am not talking. After them, now the work is continued by Dr. Koenraad Elst, Belgian scholar and Indologist. To his credit, he has written more than 25 books. Each book is a monumental work, and I studied his books many times and really felt how much depth of knowledge about the Indian heritage, culture, society he has, and that is very unfathomable. So we are glad to have still he amidst us and continue to enlighten our society. And coming back to our actual presentation, that's the introduction, because today's work I am presenting to you is mostly from the work, a book of Sita Ram Goel ji called Perversion of Political Parlance in India. I will show that book at the end for those who are much interested to go it and look at it in depth. Sita Ram Goel ji's the great work is, he delineated 8 important attributes that is called the language features of imperialism. Excuse me. Imperialism is a broader concept where one society like Islamic or Christian or communist ideology comes and dominates other societies, subdues them and militarily defeats them, or ideological and imposes their belief system and totally alien societies, distant societies. That is a broad imperialism. Most of the time we know only about the political imperialism or Western imperialism, European imperialism. But the greatness of Sita Ram Goel is his intellectual acumen is he discerned all these 4 and mapped them at one place by 8 or 9 characters. These, the language features are inscrutable entity, incomparable person, human history is divided into 2 parts, mankind itself is divided into 2 domains, and their land where the people populate is divided into 2 domains, and all these 4 imperialisms, they map the followers of this like one monolithic sterile groups, and we look at them, and these imperialisms the mandate the whole earth, this ideology, to go and attack and defeat and subdue, kill and erase the native cultures. And these ideologies foresee 2 inevitabilities: triumph of their group and defeat of opponent's group. And they have very high degree of religious or self-righteousness, smugness, coziness, superiority, condescending attitude. And we look at it. And why they are doing means they show a reason. They accuse the native people or who are outside their pale certain sins, because you are certain doing the certain sins or broadly doing the wrong. We are here to help you. Like that they put the entire ideology to these people, the victims. Let's look about these things and you will get a very fascinating the view now. All these 4 languages of imperialism has an inscrutable entity. This entity nobody has seen, nobody has analyzed or look at it. In case of Islamic imperialism, he is called Allah, a god called Allah who resides in their theological book. Nobody has verified him or cross-examined him or certified him or said anything. Just you have to take it for granted. This they speak on the behalf of this inscrutable entity in Islam. Allah in Christianity is Yahweh. In Western imperialism, it is a broader idea of superiority of European civilization. They talk on its behalf. A facade, a device or a guise. In case of communism, it is worded like a forces of production or productivity. These are all inscrutable, very broad, very vague ideas. And there is an incomparable person for these imperialistic languages. This incomparable person is, in case of Islamic imperialism, Muhammad. He is broadcasted or introduced, marketed as the messenger of this inscrutable entity. Incomparable means is superior. You cannot compare any other person. Whatever this incomparable person said or did, you have to accept in the face value. You cannot criticize it at all. In case of Islam, this incomparable person is Muhammad, the Rasul of Allah. The theology says that means messenger of Allah or a dealer of Allah. That means he spoke on behalf of this inscrutable entity Allah, is incomparable. For Yahweh, who is inscrutable in Christian imperialism, the incomparable person is Jesus Christ. He is not an historical person at all. Like Muhammad, he is a fictitious character in Bible. And he is marketed or sold or presented as a son of God itself. He is very incomparable. Whatever he said, you have to accept it. In case of Western imperialism, it is little more secular. These two are secular versions dressed up as a secular. These use high-sounding religious lingo. That is the only minor difference. That incomparable person for Western colonialism is a white man. He is a very superior, and his culture and achievements are so high, and every other race, non-whites, has to follow him. I have to mention one thing. This is a intellectual analysis, not any racial or ethnic antagonism preaching against people born in these cultures like Muslims or Christians and Europeans. It is nothing like that. This is a pure intellectual analysis and alternate presentation of alternate opinion of this imperialism that the audience has to keep in mind. In case of communism, this incomparable person is the Lenin. Vladimir Lenin is the person who got the political power and established this ideology in 1917 in Bolshevik, when the Bolsheviks took power by overthrowing the Russian emperor's Romanov dynasty. So whatever he said, you have to accept it. So we have a inscrutable entities and their incomparable persons. And they divide the human history into Jahiliyya and Hillam. In case of Islam, Jahiliyya is a dark period. Before the revelations, entire world is ascribed as a very dark period. After this, the light period, when this person came, is a light period, Ilam. These are Arabic words, dark period, light period. In case of Christianity, because it uses the English words, is very simple. Period of light, period of darkness. Before Christ, everything is dark. Everything has no value at all. All the cultural, artistic achievements of humans has no value. In case of Western colonialism, it is similar. Before the discoveries and explorations starting from 1500, that means Columbus going to west side and landing in Americas, and Vasco da Gama, Bartholomew, all those people coming east side landing India. Before that is a dark period. After this, that means they brought the European culture and civilization to these dark areas. The light started. The light period, dark period. In communism, everything is the same. After this revolution, after the onset of Lenin as a prominent political military power in Russia, the period is called a communist period, enlightened period. It is a paradise or socialist. Everything is great in their opinion. Before that, the societies were dark period or oppressive societies. So the concept is same, the vocabulary words are little different, the same. Two parts of the human history. And the mankind, this ideology is divided into two watertight compartments. There is no compromise between these two at all. In case of Islam, it is called Momins. Momins are the people who accepted this belief system and got converted or forced into the system by the sourcemen, the establishers of this religion. This is the common name for this is Muslims, they like to be called, but they are also called Muslims in the Western societies. And other people are infidels, the Kafirs, who are not aware of this ideology or who rejected this ideology when it was presented to them. So it divides the mankind into very watertight Momins and Kafirs. Here, Christian imperialism does the same thing, uses a different words. These are called the Christians, and the non-believers are called Heathens or Gentiles. These are very hate-filled words, not just demarcations. You have to keep in mind. In case of Western imperialism, the civilized Europeans and savage Asians and Africans, the idea is the same essentially. In case of communism, and they are called capitalists, the adversaries. And they themselves, communists, market themselves as the working class or proletarians, very high sounding word, proletarians and capitalists. So here we see the two partitions and division of the mankind. They are essentially the same. These are the religious lingo, these are the secular lingo. And it divides the land, these languages of four imperialisms divide the land into two parts. Darul Islam, Darul Harb, that means where Islam is practiced or they have the political power, and Darul Harb, the enemy's land, which has to be waged a war, attacked, converted into Darul Islam. In case of Christian imperialism, it is the same. Their holy land and infidels' land, Gentus' land, Gentiles' land, Heathens' land. The wording is a little different. It's English words here, and these are the Arabic words, the same. And in case of Western colonialism, imperialism, it is the civilized lands, the European lands, where this ideology by the British imperialism, Portuguese and Spanish and Russian, Danish, French imperialism formulated is a civilized land, and the rest of the world of Asia, Africa, Europe are barbaric lands. And in case of communism is a communist world, and the rest is a capitalist world, the world that have no value. And in case, and what these imperialisms, four of them does is they mandate the whole earth. In case of Islam, the prophet has, Allah has created the land, planet earth, and he has mandated to the prophet during revelation. After the prophet passed away in Medina in 632, he bequeathed this entire land to Millat, Ummah, Muslims. They possess it. Everybody else is a squatter, illegal occupant. So it is the duty, responsibility, divine mandate of Muslims, the Muslims, Millat, to evict these squatters from the planet Earth or the land where they belong. like the Muslims did in 1947, evicted all the Kafirs out of Paschim Punjab and Sindh province, Pashtun province, that is Sarhad Suba, Baluchistan province, and Purbi Bengal. In case of Christianity, it is the same. Yahweh created this planet Earth and he mandated to his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. When his Son was bequeathed or crucified, it was delegated, bequeathed, hand over to the church organization, and that church has the divinely ordained responsibility to convert the entire mankind into Christians. It's the same but different lingo. In case of European colonialism, it is a white man's burden because we are talking about India. In case it is the British has taken the responsibility of civilizing this barbaric Indian race or African race and so on. In case of the communism, it was these forces of production. Lenin, after his death, around about 1929 or so, he bequeathed to the Communist International, the political organization, and it is the responsibility of the Communist International, various communist parties that were born out of it, their responsibility to convert the entire planet Earth into a communist system. And these ideologies see two inevitabilities, very interesting, all the same. In case of Islamic imperialism, the triumph of Ummah is forecasted by Allah and defeat of Kafirs, because we have Momins and Kafirs, triumph of Ummah and defeat of Kafirs. In case of Christianity, it is same. It is the triumph of the church and defeat of the Gentiles, Heathens, Gentiles. In case of India, it is the defeat of Hindus. In case of Western civilization, Western colonial language, European colonialism, it is the triumph of Western civilization, European civilization, and defeat of barbaric civilizations of Asia, Africa, pre-Columbian, North America, Central America, South America, or Latin America. In case of communist imperialistic language, it is the victory of the Communist International and decimation of what they call a capitalist societies and feudal societies. So these are the two inevitabilities the ideology foresees. These are religious lingo, these are secular lingo. The concept you can discern is the same. And all these four languages of imperialism, Islamic imperialism, Christian imperialism, European imperialism, and communist imperialism, have a high sense of self-righteousness. That means they think they are the correct and everybody is wrong. They have a condescending attitude towards the others. They have a sense of smugness. They have a sense of sanctity, sanctimony, artificiality. And in case of Islam, this self-richness says, Al-Rahman Al-Rahim, the merciful or beneficent Allah, forfeited the lives, the properties, liberties of Kafirs, that is the Hindus, and they need to be destroyed. In case of Christianity, this self-righteous language says the only God and his only Son forfeited the lives and properties of the Gentiles. Gentiles are heathens, infidels are non-believers, and they should be erased from the planet Earth, or at least converted and made to join these people's party, their ideology. In case of European colonialism, it is a customs and social order of the European people, their social mores, their sexual mores, their dietary habits, their culture, their dress, their language, everything has to be implemented, enforced on these the hapless barbaric lands and barbaric civilizations. In case of communist imperialism, they want to destroy the vestiges of feudalism and capitalism and establish a proletarian paradise, that is, a workers' paradise. They always will be talking about very high-flown languages, the workers, the proletarians against the feudals, the capitalists. Their invented antagonists are enemies. Why they are doing all these things? Because this ideology accuse others of crimes. What is that crime? Means in a broader sense, in case of Islam, the crime or sin you are doing is idolatry, called shirk in Arabic. That means you are worshipping the idols, you are worshipping the images, you are worshipping the many gods. You are not worshipping the true God, that is Allah, their worship in their theology. That's why they are attacking the Kafirs. In case of Christianity, it is the same. The sin and shame of polytheism. You are worshipping the many gods. You have forgotten the only God and His only Son. Instead of doing that, why you are worshipping so many gods? That is the sin others are doing, so they are attacking the others. In case of Western colonialism, Hindu society lives in superstition, a barbaric society, so we want to improve them, bring a better social order, European social order, and the language goes like this. In case of communist imperialism, the feudal lords conspired against the workers, against the proletariat, so the communists are very angry about this, so they are attacking everywhere and trying to convert the entire earth to their belief system. That is the socialism they target to do it. And so you can see herely that the language features how all the four colonial languages, imperial languages map to them with just a subtle change in terminology. They are one and the same. The first two are religiously disguised. They use a religious lingo like a God, His Son, a Savior, revelation, the Holy Book, Holy Theology, the Church, the triumph of the Church, all these things. Whereas the last two, they are a heresy of Christianity. They are dressed up in a secular lingo. Communism looks like more radical, attacking all of them. It is the same ideology. These are in the religious lingo, these are in secular lingo. That's the only difference. Ram Swarup ji and Sita Ram Goel says Islam everywhere and India is openly aggressive. They go on street riots for every event, for every minute excuse. Whereas the Christianity, because it doesn't have much intellectual support in the Europe and North America, after Renaissance and Reformation, it was tamed. Its high-sounding ideology was questioned by the intellectuals born in Christian community. So it has changed. So it has become now cunningly subversive. Whereas the Hindu society lacks any ideation or ideation every day like these in the churches and mosques. So it is totally becoming a victim of these ideologies. That's why Ram Swarup says Hindus now they are living among these very exclusive closed creeds. They have to develop a sense of ideation of their belief system, else they will be erased and wiped out like the pagans, the native religions of the Greece, in the Roman world, Iberic world, in North American, South American world. That is very important thing you have to keep in mind. That is abroad, the language features and how these imperialisms are mapping. Now we look at some notes I have made. These are from the works of the Trimurti of Renaissance in India and they will be very valuable to you to broadly understand these. So I have added here, and I will not go extensively about them, and I will just mention these words so that entire thing puts in a proper context for the audience to understand and appreciate. So we said the religious lingo and non-religious secular lingo. Here mostly we are concerned about the first two, the major dominating or aggressive ideologies. Like Islam and Christianity, they have the common origin, they have the common hatred against non-believers, infidels. They are monolatrous, their Abrahamic means came from Abraham, and they are prophetic, they are revealed religions. Some prophets brought this ideology, like the prophet of Islam and the prophet or the leader of Christianity, Jesus Christ. The gods or godlings in this ideology is extremely jealous, is a militant godling. Sita Ram Goel calls them a criminal gangster in these theologies. Like Allah hijacked from the native pagan Arab religion and turned into a very aggressive god, and Christianity hijacked from the Old Testament an exclusive god. Yahweh was not aggressive at all in the Old Testament. Christianity hijacked it and turned into a very militant god. Now he wants to destroy all other gods and destroy the followers of all other gods. And they seek only outward expansion. There is no concept of inward journey or inner exploration. They are conversion-based ideology. They want to go and externally convert the people and increase the numbers of their party, their religion. Ram Swarup calls them, these are the religions of the Raga and Dvesha. Raga means love in Sanskrit, Dvesha means hate. They love their gods so much and they hate other gods and followers of other gods, the native people, pagan people, are pre-Christian Islamic religious people so much. Whereas the native religions like Hinduism, Buddhism are the religions, ideologies of prajna, means wisdom, a thinking and knowledge. Whereas Christianity, Islam are the religions of the raga and dvesha, religions of the love and religions of hate. These are essentially political ideologies. They are imperialistic and aggressive in nature. They have the concept of the chosen people like Momins, Muslims, and chosen people like Christians. And they also have chosen enemies, the rest. People who have not heard of these ideologies are not interested to convert these futures. So they have the chosen people, that the Muslims and Christians, chosen enemies, Kafirs, Gentiles, Heathens, infidels. These are not just delineation like these two groups. They are totally, in their theological terms, hate-filled words, very aggressive, very militant concepts that we have to keep in mind. And these two ideologies, Islam and Christianity, have a doctrinal affinity. As we have seen before, they are the one and the same, but they have historical conflict. Why they have a historical conflict? Because once they have a particular group of the people, one ideology, closed ideology, comes and conquers them or converts them or Christianity, then Islam comes, it needs more people. So where does this population comes from? The previous Christians, like in Judea, Samaria, in Levant, in Romalia, in Europe. They wanted the same people. So even though they're doctrinally one and the same or similar, identical, they have a historical conflict. This we should not forget. Even though they fought with each other in crusades and battles, they are one and the same. So they claim they originally came from Judaism, then Christianity developed and Islam developed one upon the other. This is what their ideologues or even certain Western scholars say. But Ram Swarup, Sita Ram Goel, and Voice of India think tanks gives a different opinion. This is called hijacking. Judaism has already established God Yahweh. He has a followers, he has a book, he has a scriptures and everything. And Christianity, when it came, it didn't start a new thing. He just hijacked Yahweh from Judaic scriptures and made a militant and start using it. And when Islam came, it again hijacked Yahweh and called him Allah and start using it. It's like already established brands were there for the new entrepreneurs or businessmen to come and establish a new business and get hold of the market is very tough. Instead of that, just they hijacked this brand that was already very popular. This is nothing but hijacking under the pretext of legitimate succession. That's what the Mahayogi says and visualizes and tells us. Hijacking or usurpation of the previous already established groups or ideologies. These are the deluded belief systems. They are the closed creeds. They are closed. They are not open for debate and discussion. And the issue generally people think in India is the conflict between the Hindus and Muslims and Hindus and Christians. Ram Swarup, Sita Ram Goel disagree that. The conflict is not between the Hindus and Muslims, Hindus and Christians. They are our own people. The Sindhi Muslims are like Sindhi Hindus. Punjabi Muslims are like Punjabi. Sikhs are Hindus. They are the one and the same. They are the same stock. But the problem is the belief system. So we need to first discuss the belief system, ideology. That's very important. Leave the people born in this system alone. Look at the ideology. Their aggressive behavior patterns are delineated by their belief system. That is very important. Mahayogi Sri Ram Swarup tells us. These are the converts, proselytes, everywhere are erasing their past. They don't want to keep anything of their past. Everywhere they are erasing. Their languages, literatures, artistic monuments of their parent body, that is infidels or Kafirs, are erased. Muhammad himself destroyed all the 365 pratimas, statues, images of the pagan Arabs and imposed his own belief system, erasing the past. They lack interiority, they lack spirituality, they lack philosophy, they lack mythology. They are just sterile theologies, lot of theology. They have no concept of inward journey of the soul, no concept of deep meditation or anything. They are just seeking external expansion. They say our population is 1 billion, 1.5 billion. We are populating like majority in the 30 countries, 40 countries, 50 countries. There is no concept any inward journey, only political expansion, external expansion. Some of its saints are Sufis of Islam and Christianity as outright militants. Sita Ram Goel has the courage to call them their gangsters. They are marketed as the saints and Sufis. He gives the credit to the normal Muslims and Christians who live amidst us because this ideology sits very lightly in the converted population. But people who are deeply dulled, indoctrinated, their leaders are essentially very militant and aggressive, outright practice gangsterism. This ideology, constant preaching them in the churches, in the mosques, in the madrasas, in khutbahs, continuously poisons the minds of the adherents or the people born in this ideology, and gives a deeper ideation. That's why the people are conditioned to behave very aggressively against the non-believers. That's why Ram Swarup called these belief systems of Islam and Christianity as asahaja, means unnatural. This is not a natural. The natural native religions like worshipping the gods of the nature, the sun, the moon god, the wind god, the river god, gods attached to the soil. Whereas Islam and Christianity has overthrown them, replaced with a theological, unscrutable entity called Yahweh and Allah. So Ram Swarup ji tells us these are asahaja, unnatural belief system imposed by the sourcemen of this ideology. A swordman of Islam, a swordman of Christianity, propagated, maintained by salesmen of Islam, now salesmen of Christianity. Two things, salesmen and sourcemen. The conversion always brings alienation among the converts. The converts are very hostile to the parent body. The Punjabi Mussalmans, Sindhi Mussalmans, Pashtun Mussalmans, Bengali Mussalmans, Gujarati Mussalmans, Tamil Mussalmans, everywhere very hostile to the parent body, Hindus. Everywhere they asked and fought for partition of their own motherland. So the converts become very hostile to the parent body. This Hindus and natives has to keep in mind as their numbers increase, the same hostility will increase. That's a very important thing. If you forget this basic fact, you will be in deep trouble. That's what Ram Swarup says. There is a divinely ordained immunity in this religion. That means because they are closed ideologies, they said they are divinely ordained. You cannot criticize them. They are shut off from the inquiry. Mahayogi Sri Ram Swarup, intellectual Kshatriya Sita Ram Goel ji on the planet Earth are the first persons to open the closed creeds for debates and discussion at a serious level by their concept of yogic journey and spiritual entailment. They looked at these ideologies from the native Hindu Buddhist perspective. They have opened this divinely ordained immunity. They broke it and put with various the concepts for the audience to understand them. Though they are very pretentious, we have seen self-righteous ideologies. Then we talked about briefly the sourcemen of Islam and salesmen of Islam. Proselytizations, nothing but a conversion. Native societies all have philanthropy. That means giving the charity, the help like that. Industrial societies, which accumulated lot of wealth like the Ford, Rockefeller, they become very wealthy by starting the industry. They also have a sort of philanthropy, helping the less fortunate people by giving the scholarships and so on. That's called industrial philanthropy. These ideologies, especially Christianity, has a proselytization philanthropy. That means philanthropic proselytization. The entire idea is a conversion-based. Philanthropy is outside mask, outward disguise. So they say we are doing medical, health, social, educational services, all these things. But it's essentially for the purpose of conversion. They want to convert the people and hiding their hate-filled ideologies with the cover of philanthropy. Ram Swarup called them philanthropic proselytization, that the natives has to be very, very careful. You start paying the attention. So these ideologies are at odds with the philosophy or spirituality, etc. So there are the salesmen, saleswomen of modern day Christianity, Islam, are replaced by the olden days swordsmen who came like the Ghoris and Ghaznavis and Tughlaqs and Mughals came with the swords. Now they have replaced with the salesmen. And the Portuguese pirates, the British swordsmen, now replaced by the salesmen in the churches, the pastors. That means previously the white men were coming and conquering the ancient lands of India and China. Now they are sending the money, purchasing the local brown people as intellectual compradors, the dealers, sellers of this ideology. And these converts, proselytes, are employed to lead the jihad, to lead the ghazwa, to lead the street riots, to lead the evangelization, to lead the crusades against the parent. That's what happened in 1947. There was no Ghaznavis, there were no Ghoris, there were no Arabs, there were no Turkmen, there were no Persians, Turanis coming from Khyber Pass. All the local converts, Punjabi converts, Sindhi converts, Beluchi converts, Bengali converts, Uttar Pradesh Muslims, the local converts from the parent body were used to lead the jihad, ghazwa, street riots, evangelization. This is very important. You should not underestimate these converts now. So now they stopped sending any white men or any invaders. They are purchasing them and using them against the local body in order to grow their ideological groups and foundations in the ancient civilization. That's what Mahayogi Ram Swarup Ji tells us. That as a result, we saw the Naukali riots, the Tipera riots, the Calcutta riots, direct action day 1947 where 10-15,000. All these are just statistics, but you have to understand what are the ideological foundations, why their aggressive behavior pattern, the reason is their intolerant belief system is the root of their aggressive behavior pattern. Their behavior pattern can be mapped to their belief system. That you have to understand, and you have to work on that, intellectually analyze and present to the potential victims and audience. So finally, as we discussed about the four imperialistic lingos with the commonality, Sita Ram Goel ji says, in India we need a language of Indian nationalism, and this need not be invented or synthesized from a floating mass of words and syllables. On the contrary, our ancient nation, the country, Bharat, has known this national language since the time immemorial. The language evolved and developed by the great sages, seers, savants and scholars, and it is present in Mahabharata, Ramayana and Puranas, Dharma Shastras. And we need to revive this language and present to our audience as an intellectual Kshatriyas, develop them with. We can face these four hate-mongering, war-mongering, conversion-based ideologies at ideological level. That's what Mahayogi Sri Ram Swarup Ji and intellectual Kshatriya Sita Ram Goel Ji tell in their Voice of India scholarly works. So essentially, today I summarized all the four imperialisms. The languages of four imperialisms we discussed before, that is language of Islamic imperialism, language of Christian imperialism, language of European imperialism, language of communist imperialism. By mapping them to these 8 characters: inscrutable entity, incomparable person, human history divided into 2, mankind divided into 2, the land divided into 2. They have how these groups are banded together like a homogeneous, sterile, a group people, and mandate that the ideologies claimed from their divinely ordained inscrutable entities like Allah, Yahweh, or European civilization, or forces of production, and a degree of self-righteousness. And since they accuse the native people civilizations or whoever outside this belief system or ideological groups. That's what I wanted to talk today in brief, and I hope this makes the things very crystal clear for our audience at South Asia in maps. And this is your articulate presenter Jeredy. I greatly appreciate your feedbacks and potential subscriptions and popularizing our intellectual Kshatriya channel to the audience in South Asia, outside South Asia, for broader understanding of this ancient civilization. Today, I have presented the great yogic and doctrinal perspective, the voice of India think tank, Trimurti of modern Hindu Renaissance, Sita Ram Goel, Sri Ram Swarup, Dr. Koenraad Elst have analyzed and published in their scholarly works. And see you later in other presentations. Dhanyavad.